The headquarters of Al Noor Construction towered over Sheikh Zayed Road in Dubai, its glass facade reflecting the desert sun. It was 2019, and the most ambitious sustainable building project in the Middle East, the Emirates Green Tower, was selecting its lead engineering firm. Among the final proposals sat a thick folder from Manila, Philippines, waiting to be reviewed by the man who would make the final decision. Rashid Al-Mansouri, chief structural engineer with 30 years of experience building Dubai's most iconic structures, sat in his corner office, surrounded by scale models of skyscrapers he'd designed. 3 international awards hung on his wall. His buildings had never failed. His reputation was flawless. When developers needed the impossible, they called Rashid. His assistant placed the final proposal on his mahogany desk. "Mr. Al-Mansouri, this just arrived from Manila." Rashid looked up, his eyebrow raised. "Manila, the Philippines," she nodded. Rashid opened the folder slowly. The cover read, "Sustainable Vertical Design by Garcia Engineering Solutions." Lead engineer Carlos Garcia. Rashid flipped through the pages. His expression shifted from professional interest to confusion, then to something close to amusement. He stopped on page 12 and laughed. Not a polite chuckle, but a full echoing laugh that filled his office. His assistant shifted uncomfortably. "Sir, is something wrong?" Rashid held up a blueprint showing an intricate lattice framework. "This Filipino engineer wants to integrate bamboo into a 40-story skyscraper." "Bamboo in Dubai?" He shook his head, still smiling. "Does he think we're building a beach hut?" His assistant didn't respond. Rashid continued flipping pages, his amusement growing. He claims bamboo has better tensile strength than steel in certain applications, that it's more flexible during seismic events, that it's sustainable. He closed the folder and pushed it aside. "File this under rejected. We're building the future of Dubai, not a jungle resort." His assistant hesitated. "Sir, the proposal has some impressive data." His stress tests show. Rashid cut her off. "I don't care what his tests show. I've been building structures in this region for 3 decades. I know what works. Bamboo belongs in furniture, not skyscrapers." The next day, the selection committee met. 5 developers, 2 government officials, and Rashid gathered in a conference room overlooking the proposed construction site. Rashid presented his recommendation, a German firm with a traditional steel and concrete design. Clean, proven, expensive. The developers nodded approvingly. One official raised his hand. "What about the Philippine proposal? I heard it was innovative." Rashid's jaw tightened. "Innovative? It's reckless. The engineer wants to use bamboo as a structural support component. Bamboo has no place in high-rise construction. It's untested at this scale. It's a liability." A younger developer spoke up, but the sustainability scores were exceptional, and the cost was 30% lower than the German bid. Rashid leaned forward. "Cost means nothing if the building falls. I stake my reputation on structural integrity. I will not attach my name to a project that uses experimental materials from someone with no high-rise experience in our climate." The room fell silent. Rashid's authority was absolute. The committee voted. The German firm won. The Philippine proposal was rejected. 3 weeks later, Rashid received an email. It was from Carlos Garcia, the Filipino engineer. The message was polite but direct. "Mr. Al-Mansouri, thank you for reviewing our proposal. I understand your concerns about bamboo integration. However, I believe there's been a misunderstanding about the application and testing. I'm in Dubai for a conference. If you have 30 minutes, I'd like to show you something. No obligation, just engineer to engineer." Rashid almost deleted it, but something made him pause. Maybe it was curiosity, maybe it was the respectful tone. He replied, "Tomorrow, 2 p.m., my office, 30 minutes. The next afternoon, Carlos Garcia walked into Rashid's office. He was in his early 30s, lean, wearing a simple suit, carrying a worn leather briefcase. Rashid gestured to a chair. "You have 30 minutes." Carlos didn't waste time. He opened his briefcase and pulled out a small bamboo cylinder, no thicker than a water bottle. "May I?" Rashid nodded. Carlos placed the cylinder on the desk and pulled out a metal clamp. "This is Dendralamus asper, giant bamboo from Southeast Asia, structural grade. He secured the cylinder in the clamp horizontally, then hung a small weight from the end. The bamboo didn't bend. Carlos added another weight, then another. Rashid leaned forward, watching. The bamboo still held. Carlos added a fourth weight, 10 kilo total, on a thin bamboo cylinder, extended horizontally. The deflection was minimal. Carlos looked at Rashid. Now same test with steel of equivalent weight and dimension. He pulled out a steel tube of similar size and repeated the test. At 8 kilo, the steel bent noticeably more than the bamboo had. Rashid's expression changed. That's unexpected. Carlos nodded. Bamboo's tensile strength is comparable to steel, but it's 6 times lighter and it's flexible, not brittle. In seismic events, flexibility saves buildings. He pulled out a tablet showing simulation videos. This is a computer model of a 40-story structure during a 7.2 magnitude earthquake. Traditional steel frame. The building in the video swayed violently, several joints failing. Now same earthquake, bamboo integrated design. The building swayed, but the movement was controlled, distributed. No joint failures. Rashid watched in silence. Carlos continued, I'm not proposing we replace steel. I'm proposing we enhance it. Bamboo latatis between steel frames creates a hybrid structure, stronger, lighter, and more resilient. Plus bamboo sequesters carbon. A 40-story building with our design would be carbon negative within 5 years. Rashid sat back. You've tested this at scale. Carlos pulled out a folder. A 12-story hybrid structure in Manila, completed 2017, survived Typhoon Manat in 2018. Winds over 200 kilometers per hour, 0 structural damage. The steel-only building next to it had frame buckling. He showed photos. The evidence was clear. Rashid stared at the images. His 30 years of certainty suddenly felt less certain. Why didn't you include this in your proposal? Rashid asked. Carlos met his eyes. I did page 47 to 63, the appendix. Rashid felt heat rise in his face. He'd stopped reading at page 20, dismissing the entire proposal as unserious. He judged without fully reviewing. Carlos continued quietly. I understand your skepticism. Bamboo sounds exotic, risky, but engineering isn't about what sounds safe. It's about what the data shows. Rashid was silent for a long moment. Finally he spoke. The contract's been awarded. The German firm has already begun preliminary work. Carlos nodded. I know. I'm not here to change that. I'm here because I respect your work. I've studied your buildings. You're brilliant. I just wanted you to see that different doesn't mean inferior. Something in Rashid cracked. Pride. Assumption. He looked at the test cylinder still sitting on his desk, holding 10 kilo without strain. He thought about the typhoon photos, the earthquake simulations, the data he'd dismissed. What if, Rashid started slowly, the German firm's design fails the wind load simulations? It's borderline on our models. Carlos looked up. Then you'd need an alternative. Rashid picked up his phone and called his engineering team. Run full wind load simulations on the German design. Use the updated Dubai wind data from last year's storms. I want results by tomorrow. He hung up and looked at Carlos. If their design fails, I'm reopening the review. I can't promise anything, but I can promise I'll actually read your entire proposal this time. The next day, the results came back. The German design failed wind load requirements by 8%. It would need expensive reinforcement that would push the project over budget and behind schedule. The committee reconvened, frustrated. Rashid stood. I have a solution, but you're not going to like it at first. He presented Carlos's full proposal, including the data he'd initially ignored. The room was skeptical. Rashid expected that. I was skeptical too, he admitted. But I've reviewed the engineering. I've seen the test results. I've examined the precedent structure in Manila. This isn't experimental, it's innovative. There's a difference. He showed the typhoon photos, the earthquake simulations, the tensile strength comparisons. Slowly, the room's resistance faded. One developer asked, is it safe? Rashid paused, then answered honestly, it's safer than what we almost built. The committee voted again. This time, Garcia Engineering Solutions won. Construction began 6 months later. Rashid worked alongside Carlos, learning techniques he'd never encountered in 3 decades of engineering. The bamboo lattice integration was complex, requiring precision. But as the structure rose, something remarkable happened. The building was lighter, requiring less foundation depth. It was stronger, exceeding wind load requirements by 18%. It was faster to build, saving 4 months of construction time. International engineering journals took notice. Site visits from structural engineers worldwide became common. Rashid found himself explaining bamboo tensile properties to colleagues who'd once shared his skepticism. The building topped out at 42 stories, 2 more than originally planned because the weight savings allowed it. On completion day, Rashid and Carlos stood at the base of the Emirates Green Tower, looking up. "I owe you an apology," Rashid said. "I dismissed your work without understanding it. I let assumptions overrule evidence." Carlos shook his head. "You gave me a chance when you didn't have to. That's more than most would do." Rashid smiled. "I gave you 30 minutes. You earned everything after that." The Emirates Green Tower won the International Sustainable Architecture Award 8 months later. Rashid accepted the award, but he made sure Carlos stood beside him. In his speech, Rashid said something that surprised the audience. "For 30 years, I thought I knew everything about building structures. Then a Filipino engineer showed me that the best engineering isn't about defending what you know. It's about remaining open to what you don't." Carlos's firm received 5 new contracts from Middle Eastern developers within a year. Rashid's company partnered with Garcia Engineering Solutions on 3 of them. The 2 engineers became collaborators, then friends. Rashid learned that excellence doesn't have a nationality. Innovation doesn't require a famous university. And sometimes the best structures are built when you're willing to admit you were wrong. The Dubai skyline changed that day, not just with one building, but with a mindset. Traditional engineering and indigenous knowledge proved they could coexist, creating something neither could achieve alone. And Rashid learned the most important lesson of his career. The strongest foundations are built on humility, and true engineering excellence comes from evidence, not assumptions. The greatest innovations often come from unexpected sources. And wisdom means being humble enough to learn from those you initially underestimated.